Hello, this is Richard Peers from Finextra TV, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Damian Payiatakis and, of course, with David Newman. So, hello, guys. How are you?
Very well,
Good,
thanks,
thank
Richard.
Very good. Damian, you're head of impact investing at Barclays, and of course, you, David, are with Delio as a co-founder. We had a very interesting event recently at sustainablefinance.live where we were talking about impact investing, and everybody was going, what we need is a marketplace where we can bring together all the different investments and connect them with the investees, etc. And then along you guys came, knocked on my door and said, we've got something that sounded strangely like that. Damian, tell us a bit more about this, about you and what you're doing.
So one of the things that at Barclays we're really happy to be doing is working with Delio to bring together that community that you're talking about, both the investors and the intermediaries who are working with the entrepreneurs to be able to come together into an initiative that we call Impact Agora. The idea being that we recognize there's this gap between both sides of the market that are often looking for each other, but really struggling to find each other. And we thought, what a nice way to be able, for our own purposes, to be able to find opportunities to share with our clients. But actually, that when we started to engage and work with Delio around the topic, we recognized we weren't the only ones with this problem. And so the idea of being able to bring together a community, enable it with the technology that Delio runs, and make that available as a market infrastructure was something that we wanted to do.
Which is fantastic. And then, what's each one of you doing in the partnership? And tell me a bit more, between you, the scope of it. I think it's only for institutional investors, isn't it? But, tell me a bit more, Damian, first of all, about the role that you're playing as Barclays, and then over to you, David.
Well, at Barclays, I guess we're playing three roles. One is first to, as I said, for ourselves to be able to find better quality deal flow through this marketplace. The second is as a role as a sponsor, sort of being to help to provide some of the patient capital to be able to get it up and running. And the last is to be able to use our connections and opportunities to bring in more players, both the existing community of impact investors, but actually the wider mainstream. So other wealth managers, corporate venture capital funds, other of our investment banking and corporate banking clients as well, who are looking for impact deal flow or trying to access capital to be able to grow their organizations. So really three roles for us.
David.
Good. No, thanks. And I think from our side, our primary role is the technology. I mean, our job as a business, Delio's core business, is building technology for connecting private capital with private investors. And that's the core of what we do in a nice, engaging, efficient, compliant, structured way. Always branded to whatever partner project we're working on. So the core of what we've done is build that technology, as well as not just the technology for Agora for that central marketplace, but also that interoperability of technology between different people, enabling them to work on their own deals, but then share them to that central marketplace. So our primary role is there. But as with Damian says, as the role gets beyond one kind of core remit, the other two kind of things we've done is one is actually helping work with Barclays and with Damian on designing how we get that out of the ground and thinking around what does a digital impact proposition look like, as well as, again, leveraging our network. We work with everyone from Coutts, UBS, National Australia Bank, through to small multifamily offices, through to angel networks, and helping recognize that those guys all want to increasingly do more in impact investing and connect them into the marketplace as well.
Brilliant. And let's kind of make it real. Begin with the end in mind, if you will. Give us a sense of one of your participants and why they came to you, how it's working for them, and sort of what experience. I know it's early days, but what sort of experience that people are starting to say they're feeling by working with you on this. Damian.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we're alluding to, there's a range of different members. So we have angel networks, we have institutional investors, we have corporate advisors, we've got other wealth managers, all on the platform. So one particular interesting example is a recent fund manager who launched a really interesting sort of venture capital fund in the impact space with a real focus on consumer goods. Actually came onto the platform, thought it was a very interesting proposition, and what he was able to do was showcase the fund that he is raising or the team are raising. And through that, one of our investors on the intermediary side actually said, that's really interesting. They do a lot of work as a wholesale intermediary to provide capital into the market and really to be able to connect And through that process, they went off, did the usual due diligence, and actually a fairly sizable ticket has been written into that fund, allowing it to reach first close and make first investment. And that's one simple example of where a transaction has already happened, a bit sooner than we expected, but fantastic to see. Others, we've seen actual accelerator programs who have said, we do a lot of work supporting entrepreneurs. What we want to do is be able to both raise a fund to do some co-investments, but actually manage our angel network more effectively. And so what they've done is not only become a member of Impact Agora, but they've actually taken a white label of Delio's platform, branded it their own, and been able to showcase some of the deal flow to their investors in their own community. And therefore, it operates both for them and also back into the wider market.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's great to see that so early. But it's, as you're right, there's such a compelling need for this. I can see that there would be that sort of response. And David, from your point of view, when you're connecting all these partners together, how do you sort of look at that? Do you, from a technical point of view, platform point of view?
Yeah, so firstly, how do we look at it is from a fun technical challenge is probably the easy, is the kind of, and I think that is actually kind of one of the hardest things, but one of the most interesting things is actually that interoperability of data. And it doesn't sound as a sexy phrase, but it's actually quite an exciting area of kind of how do you, taking the example where, take for instance, Conduit Club. Conduit Club use our technology for their angel network. They showcase their deals, all of the Conduit Connect, and they want a way of presenting it, visualizing it, demonstrating it, and the impact that is important to them. Then at the same time, they want to leverage Agora and the great marketplace building here with Barclays and share their deal across and get co-invest and leverage network. There is one at that point in time. How do you share it in a way that both parties are constant, happy, standardized? How do you manage the governance of sharing that? But also then on an ongoing basis, how would we get to the people wanting to report on different metrics and keeping everyone updated in different parts as well? So from a technological challenge, that's the bit that kind of excites me the most, is kind of that transfer between different platforms. And it's a fun challenge to work with on here, but it's great that it's working, to see the ecosystem growing. People can work in their own ways, yet still be part of something bigger.
Yeah, I think that's super exciting, actually. I mean, I talk about that a lot. There's this sort of drive to one size fits all, orange versus oranges kind of benchmarking, but people do want to work differently and report differently. And it is about aggregation of different data sets for different needs. And as long as the provenance is there and the governance. So that, I think that's really exciting. And I join you and applaud you in that one. So tell me, you touched on it, Damian, why did Barclays get involved in this? And tell me a little bit more about that, because it's obviously a network, isn't it? Here.
It is. I think there's two aspects to it. One is, when we think about serving our clients, family offices, single or multifamily offices, or individuals, large scale, the growing interest in impact investing is there. At the same time, for their perspective, they want to find interesting, high quality deals. And being able to do that is often a challenge. And especially at the earlier stage, which is what we're talking about, ventures. And so for us, being able to find a way to connect that to that community was something that was important for our clients. But then also recognizing, again, we had a role to play in helping to build the market. I think a lot of firms talk about sort of support from the market. I think for us, we wanted to actively do something. There's no point in sort of talking about a problem in my mind. For us, being able to get involved and help to build something and contribute to the wider ecosystem was a more important thing than just to lament about the challenges that we're facing around growing the impact investing market.
Yeah, I was listening into a conference today and everyone was sort of lamenting lots of talk and not enough action. So it's lovely to see you guys took the action step. And then David, from your point of view, I mean, you touched on it in one dimension, I suppose, but there's a world of acronym soup out there, TCFD and SASB and, PRI and GRI and all the rest of it. How do you guys within the platform embrace that challenge for the players on Impact Agora in some way?
Yeah, so how we've always looked at it is we build the interfaces for people to present the data that's relevant to them. As I was saying, it's that kind of interoperability that is the bit that interests me. And I'm not saying we've got all the magic answers of how that Rosetta Stone works, but that's the way I look at the world, is there should be a Rosetta Stone. There shouldn't be a prescriptive, right, we should all move towards the PRI. And I know lots of people like to go down that world, and people are all talking about getting everyone on common frameworks, but I was explaining this in the conversation the other day, actually, that the way it's so personal to everyone. And the example I give is, even taking to the exact same family office, there may be two different people in the family that are both deciding to invest in the exact same deal for different reasons. They want to know and care about very different things because they themselves, it might be the patriarch is very passionate about kind of social inclusion. It might be that they don't mind that to the detriment of other factors. So, and whereas the other person may go, well, actually, I don't care about social inclusion, but to me, it's really about climate change, and I'd rather suffer. And that trade-off ends up being different. So even the exact same investment to the exact same investor may mean different things to people in the committee. So yeah, I'm very anti trying to get everyone on the same standard, in all honesty, which I think is it sounds contradictory to be a marketplace, but I think it's so personal that you are far better letting people have the ability to present data in the way they want to present rather than trying to be too prescriptive.
Yeah, I think tech in the right hands can manage that. Sorry, Damian.
No, what I would say is, and we're 100% in agreement in terms of us deciding what the standards are. I think one of the things that we've definitely taken light of is language and terminology and shared understanding. And certainly the work that we've done with the Impact Management Project and the ACT Alliance in terms of helping to manage some of those different groups that you're talking about to a shared understanding about some of the motivations and some of the ways that we present, even if the standard framework or metric or measurement approach is different, to David's point, and what matters to different people very clearly is different. I think the idea, and again, where we're trying to bring the community together is to be able to enable that shared language and again, hopefully use Agora to move people over time, not just the people that have been credible and active for a long time, but also the new players who are coming in to make sure the quality of how they showcase what it is they're doing makes sense. And to David's earlier point, when they start to get to the stage of reporting the outcomes that they're generating, that's done in a way that's consistent and manageable and actually can aggregate across a fund or across a wider community. And that's really exciting to think about those later stages of what we can build to.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Is that's that clarity of communication and taxonomy, etc., so that people can get about their job, but then giving the flexibility to do what needs to be done for the underlying purposes, but equally give people whatever reporting they need. That's that sort of magic Rosetta Stone, isn't it? So tell me, where is this operating, physically, if you will? I know it's in a digital world, but what jurisdictions are you operating in for now, and when is this launching? Tell me a bit more about the sort of nuts and bolts, Damian.
So we're really picking back a lot off of Delio's global reach at the moment. Starting point is focused in the UK, given our home market and also the great community that exists here. But already we've had members that have joined from the Netherlands, from India, from Belgium, people from the US as well. So really the opportunity set is global, and that's our starting point. We went live in April, so a couple months ago, sort of a soft launch in some respects to be able to start to build the community. Just actually, interestingly, as everything was shutting down, there was a big decision for us to decide to go forward or not with a traditional even event. But what we recognized in some ways was the fact that we were no longer going to be able to be physically in touch meant that from a virtual space actually was more important to find opportunities because people weren't going to still be able to access them through conferences or meetings, et cetera. Yeah. And so at the moment, the starting point is Europe, but very quickly we're obviously expanding out both in relation to where David and Delio is, but also obviously where Barclays is. There's a natural fit in terms of where some of those corridors are across Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, in terms of the range of players. But obviously the beauty of the platform is it's global, and the adaptability to the local jurisdictions and regulations is always there.
Gotcha. And just tell me, first of all, Damian, why now? I mean, in a sense, you gave an interesting insight into the journey of this, where you pre-COVID obviously made the decision to do this. So tell me a bit about, pre-COVID, why now? But also, is there any post or during COVID analysis that makes you either feel stronger about that or otherwise? So about timing for this whole project.
Yeah. So it's actually been, quite honestly, a couple of years just to get to April in terms of the process of partnering with Delio, the process of identifying the customer development and understanding what some of the pain points are. I think why now is back to the point I was making before: less talk, more in really the sense that I got a little bit frustrated with hearing everybody look at the other side and say there isn't enough quality deals, and thinking, do you know what? If we are going to solve some of the largest social and environmental issues we have to find a way to do something about it. And the early stage venture market and early funds and first time fund managers are really the starting point to be able to address all of the big scale problems we have need to be solved with starting ideas and starting opportunities, and some of them will work and some of them won't, but at least that starting point is massively important to get going. And unless we addressed it, I thought, there's no way for us to be able to move forward on the bigger issues we face.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think separate to that, it was a good time also, we've obviously have a relationship with Delio outside of Agora in terms of the work that we do with them for our own private bank, and actually other couple opportunities across the organization where we collaborate. And so it was a natural extension in terms of the relationship we had already built and sort of where we had conversations about some of the challenges both of us saw in the market.
Gotcha. And David, is there a sort of a time and, where cloud and, data and analytics, etc., it's kind of at a perfect place for this to be launched, or is that not relevant?
I think it's a part of it, but I think the bigger question comes down to that fundamentals, as Damian touched on. It's the bit that excites me most about all of this, and why from our side of getting involved, and where I think from a timing perspective, and why we invest so much energy and resource enthusiasm into this as a project is coming back to once maybe get overlooked, but a big point that Damian makes there around that their private banking clients were demanding it. I think that to me is the important thing, is that shift that we have seen in the last 2 years. I mean, Delio is not a impact first business. We are a private market solution provider, and we currently work with banks on their investment clubs or their private equity funds programs or whatever it may be, in controlling that governance distribution, and Barclays included. But within that, if we've gone from 0 to 30% of our revenue being in impact investing in the last 2.5 years, because all of these institutions recognize that their clients want access to impact investing in one way, shape, or form. But as with Barclays saying, well, we're not quite sure how we do it. We're not quite sure whether there's enough sustainability deal flow. So the fact that Barclays are then putting that, it's a difficult problem to solve, they've gone, well, let's actually try and solve that problem, and allowing other institutions to come on board, work with the multifamily officers to say, if you guys have got your own clients struggling that are interested in impact deal flow, here is a ready-made solution, both from a deal flow, a technology, a process, a structure, bringing that to them. Up to other banks saying, look, are you guys trying, playing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't? Well, actually, we've gone and done a lot of the hard work for you guys. Get involved in this as well. And that's why it excites me most, is that market shift, as much as data shift, technology shift in mindset of Barclays. It's that shift in the mindset of needing to do something for our own clients. And that is what's driving and pulling along the wealth management market to do more in the space as well.
Yeah, I think, very much everything getting involved in this, it was because, wanting to find great solutions like yours, where people have got active and done something, and shows other people the trailblazer sort of approach, how it can be done. So what's next? I mean, how do people get involved, Damian? How do they say, yeah, I like the sound of this, I want a piece of this?
Well, love to be able to expand out, right? This is a community, this is a network play, and therefore the more both investors and intermediaries that we have coming onto the platform that meet the criteria that we have in terms of the quality and thoughtfulness with which they're approaching this, the better off all of us are. So the easiest thing is to obviously take a look online in terms of the information we have up, and reach out to us. And to David's point, in this initiative, we are very open and recognize that, I want to have the best quality opportunities for our clients in Barclays, and we have a great platform in general sense, but I know that not every time somebody comes to us, we're going to have the match for them. And I'd rather not have them lose the opportunity to raise capital from someone else and be able to move this forward. So part of the ambition is to be able to bring in, a number of the other players. So reaching out and just saying, we're interested, how does this work for our clients, I think is a great starting point of the conversation.
Great. And Damian, David, from your point of view, any sort of next steps that you want to highlight?
I just echo what Damian says of get in touch and find out more. I think that the two clear growth areas I see of the network that have had most interest lately is, as I touched on, multifamily officers and other banks. And they're the two areas where I just encourage people that are really looking at how do they solve that need for their clients get in touch and recognize they can get involved in a way that they can show something to their clients without it being fully kind of packaged to look like theirs. They don't need it to be, oh, I'm showcasing a Barclays product here. Other institutions can get involved. And it's been designed in such ways to build that community and that ecosystem, and that kind of source of capital is increasingly looking to deal flow. So they're the ones that I encourage most to get involved. Absolutely.
And so finally, the question always is the big giant bank and the plucky fintech, if you will. What's the partnership like? How's it been going? Tell us a bit more about that. How do you feel the partnership's been going between you?
I'll take a first stab and see if Damian concurs. But there's the natural kind of friction that just being up front of us. But we are obviously a lot more nimble, and Barclays are a lot more bureaucratic. But I think in both sides, it's actually kind of recognizing that each other has got to that point. So Barclays have approached it not with just a big bank mindset. They have approached it, and credit to Damian and the team that have approached it with let's pilot things, let's test things, let's work how it works, and let's trial and learn, expand. And at the same token, what they've got from us in return, I hope, is a great partner that understands what a bank needs to get through and realize it's not bureaucracy for bureaucracy's sake. We're a credible player that understands the risk, compliance, the governance, the technical security that's needed to work and operate and play in this market. So I hope between us we've kind of reached that nice middle ground where it works well, but it'd be lying to say there aren't difficulties along the way where one may want to move quicker than the other at times. But I think it's worked as a good partnership, and quite frankly, it wouldn't be where it is without the speed and agility of a small business, and it wouldn't be where it is without the credibility and brand of a Barclays.
Yeah, it's a nice summary there, and hard to argue with the point David's making in terms of sometimes it takes us a bit longer to make decisions or move things forward as an organization. That being said, I think from a cultural perspective, the willingness to innovate and collaborate is definitely there, organizationally. And I think part of the reason why it is, we haven't just written a check and sponsored something. We haven't just given some money away. We are in there with Delio trying to make this work. And I think there's a value to that goes beyond just a commercial relationship or a sponsorship relationship. And I think a lot of it actually gets down to, a level of transparency and honesty around what we're both trying to achieve here in relation to the interest that we have. And going back to that and being okay with saying, look, this is where we're challenged at the moment, or this is where, we want to achieve something in an immediate time frame. And the willingness to collaborate on that basis, I think, is where we've been able to work really well in terms of making this, bringing it to life and actually making it work, as we've built it out.
Yeah, I like the sound of that sort of skin in the game partnership there. And I mean, the proof of the putting in the figures, early days, as you say, but end of May, I think you were saying sort of 19 deals, 36 members, 260 million in opportunities. So, you're off to a flying start for something that's only been launched in a soft launch in the middle of COVID in April. So you're pleased with that, I assume.
Yeah, it's tremendous to see. Always, I'm sure general entrepreneurs know the idea of turning something on and seeing if anybody actually comes to the party. Yeah. To see the reaction, and obviously we did the work over time to build out and to pilot and to get feedback, but to actually have this and see the reaction coming back from the wider community of the interest to say, actually, this is something, and we recognize it's not going to work immediately for all of us today, but the value and need of the idea behind it, to see that reaction come back is a real joy. And I think that's the next stage is scaling that up and sort of building out the connectivity within that community and helping the flow, the capital flow that we all really want to have happen.
Fantastic. Well, look, guys, thank you for the intent and the execution. It's very much valued, I think, in the market. So thanks for your time today. I look forward to hearing an update sometime in the near future.
Thank you.